Governor Tim Walz, has been doing an outstanding job. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, widely lauded for the leadership and strength, but also calmness that he's brought during this time. While also, and you heard him there, he's not selling false hope. He's not, hey, everything's going to be great in 2 weeks. We don't know. And he's not selling this false hope of, and we heard the president say this, but hey, everyone's going to be in the pews on Easter and it's going to be great. I think that's selling false hope. I don't think that that's going to happen. Unfortunately, I would love that, but I think that's unfortunately not going to happen. But leaders come in different shapes and sizes and messages, and no one better to talk about all this with than is Roshini Rajkumar. She's an executive coach, a host here at News Talk 830 WCCO as well. Roshini is at her place, I believe. She's on the CenterPoint Energy Home Service Plus hotline. Roshini, how are you?
You know, I'm doing pretty well, Cory. It's a bummer not to be in the same room with you, but I'm glad we could talk today. Yeah,
me too. You are at home, right?
I am in the home office, and that's where I've been conducting a lot of business these last several days.
Yeah. How you holding up with everything? Because you're a people person. You like to connect. You like to network. And now you're basically being told, hey, just hang out, hang in your home.
You know, this is when the fact that I am the true definition of an extrovert comes through, because I cherish my little trip out to the mailbox, or the last few days, my drive to the very close by Starbucks to just get a Starbucks, whatever it is, and to see, you know, the faces of those very sweet employees at Starbucks. So it is hard for this extrovert to not have the lunch meetings and seeing clients in person versus, you know, on the Zoom, that kind of visual.
100%. I'm the same way. I'm like, oh, there's a person. This is great. I can wave to them from 6 feet away. This is great. Roshini, you have a lot of great clients here, and you talk about leadership. As we've seen our governor and, kind of navigate through this pandemic and crisis, do you have advice that you give leaders on navigating a crisis, and what does that sound like?
Yes. In fact, even prior to COVID-19, I'm always trying to prep my clients for crisis. You know, in fact, crisis prevention is what we're always trying to work on. But should you find yourself in a crisis, and this is a crisis that most leaders did not create, you know, this pandemic is this crisis that came upon all of us. So now it's about crisis management. And for each kind of business or each family, that might take a little different form. But one phrase that I want people to remember is what I call audience analysis. So dealing with whatever aspects of this crisis you have to deal with is going to be different. How you communicate will be different based on who your audience is. So, for example, how you talk about things with your kids, Cory, very different from how you talk about it with your clients or your coworkers. And so really understanding that we're all in this together, but each audience is different. So if we really understand how that particular person or group needs to be communicated with, and use the language, use the kind of buzzwords or the way they need to feel and be communicated with, because then you're going to get the messages across. Even if the messages aren't great, they will come across better.
Yeah, and I think there has to be a balance between optimism, and I think great leaders, they do have this sense of optimism, and they have to invigorate their audience too. But I think there's a balance between optimism and selling false hope, right?
You're absolutely correct, and it is always good to be both optimistic and hopeful. And instead of thinking of it as false hope, I think it's like what you said. We can't overstate things. We can't get too puffed up about, in our hope that we're in church on Sunday for Easter Sunday, this thing is going to go away. We can't really set those kind of false expectations. So the best thing we can do right now is take it day by day. And that's really difficult for a lot of people because we're always taught to plan ahead. So my advice is, what can you do today to feel better about today? I've found by not having those morning commutes, I now all of a sudden have this time. First of all, I give myself maybe 15 to 30 minutes more of sleep every morning, which is so valuable. But also I'm able to read the Wall Street Journal in a little more detail, not just scan it. I'm able to pick up, a new podcast, or I've been finding some interesting live webinars on LinkedIn that have been very instructive as well as hopeful. So look at this extra time some of us have on our hands or a different way of doing our work as a way to fill it with some positive messages and some hope.
Yeah. Well, Roshini has a podcast. It's Real Leaders with Roshini. You can find that at WCCO Radio. And Governor Tim Walz specifically, I think one thing that he has balanced really well is he's been authoritative. He's had this ability to communicate with that authority. He has empathy, and he has not oversold it. He has also then been realistic in saying, hey, this is our situation. We are hopeful. We're optimistic. But just know in 2 weeks, the world may not go back to what you consider to be normal.
Yeah, I mean, he's been giving it to us straight for a long time. That's his style. And at the end of the day, it's probably very helpful for him that he's a teacher by training. I mean, I hear that through and through. He's very used to going through step by step, talking through, sometimes giving us information we don't want, but we have to learn it. We have to abide by it. He's been very real, which is so important during this time. His authenticity is really coming through. But, you know, he is kind of that governor next door. He has the real guy, real dad, real neighbor personality that is just him, right? That's one of his assets that is coming through and really helping him right now. I think it's also giving us, you know, not exactly the Mr. Rogers effect, but I think during this time, we do kind of like that fatherly or grandfatherly solid person, solid leader coming at us. And that's what he's been doing. There's been no hype, and that's what's important. So no matter who we're taking in as a leader, when we're watching TV, listening to the radio, reading papers, are they being sensationalistic or are they being realistic? That's what we need to discern as Americans.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up now because we talk about audience, and it makes me think Governor Tim Walz is perfect for Minnesota. Now, would he be perfect for New York? I don't think so. I think that they need that more vocal, aggressive type of leadership, and I guess that kind of goes back to leaders just they look different, right? I mean, it's not always, okay, this is the perfect leader, but you can be a good leader and do it differently.
Yeah, the main thing is to be authentic to yourself. You know, look, New York's a very different case. It's a different style of life. People are on top of people over there. I'm personally very sad. You've seen some of the reports in the New York Times and on video about Elmhurst Hospital, which is in Brooklyn. They're calling it the epicenter of the epicenter in New York. Yeah. Well, one of my college best friends is an ER doctor in that hospital, and she's been keeping us posted even prior to the news reports. And you know, I just am feeling for her. She's working like practically 20-hour days. So it is a very different feel. Could a Governor Walz type personality be a good leader in New York? I think so. Governor Cuomo has a lot on his hands right now. He just needs to be straightforward, and sometimes he's going to have to, you know, assess his audience and give it to New Yorkers in the way New Yorkers need to receive it.
Roshini, is it okay, and one thing that I've kind of thought about, and I wonder if you've thought about this with your show too, is it okay to laugh again? I mean, there was a time there, and it's been a heavy 3 weeks, and, you know, just day after day after day of all this bad news, and we try to, on this show, entertain as well as inform and have some fun, and it's been a hard thing to do that, and I think we're starting to finally kind of get out of that, but sometimes I balance that with, is it okay to laugh again?
Absolutely. I mean, we need humor right now more than really any time in recent memory. And I make it very clear on my show. I did this last Sunday. I'll do it again this Sunday. We're going to have great guests. We're going to give you vital information, but we're going to have some lightness. We're going to laugh. I mean, this coming Sunday, I have Paul McGuire-Grimes coming on. He's my film and TV guy. So we're going to talk entertainment. We're going to talk about what are you binging? What do you recommend? We need to have some fun because that's the only way you can keep perspective. You know, I was letting myself, you know, even me, you know, I'm a very positive person, getting a little into the rabbit hole when I was reading up on all this stuff at Elmhurst Hospital. And we've got this New York text going with my friend Laura and some other buddies out there. And she's the one giving us the reality check. She's like, look, guys, I'm okay. We're taking it easy. Luckily, my husband's back at home holding down the fort with our daughters. So she's giving us the reality check. But you have to have that humor to balance out the heavy that is coming at us literally by the second. The other thing, Cory, as much as you and I love social media, don't be on it 24/7. You know, give yourself
no
some
kidding.
of those social media
Yeah.
breaks. Only, you know, discern who you're going to listen to, watch, read, and try not to let your worst voice forward during this time. If you feel like reacting negatively to someone on Twitter, hold back. Save it for 2 months from now. You know, try to put out something positive, or don't say anything at all. That's going to be my advice on social media right now.
Yeah, Twitter will get back to normal in our negative self in 2 months, 3 months. Just save it for now.
Yeah, exactly.
Roshini, great to catch up with you. Again, that's Roshini Rajkumar, her show, Real Talk with Roshini on Sunday, and then her podcast, Real Leaders with Roshini. Stay safe, and we'll catch up soon.
All right. Thanks, Cory.